There we go. Press some buttons there. Let's get rid of that. Make sure that's on. We will click some buttons here. There we go. Oh, there we go. Just going to click on. Yeah, apologies for turning on slightly late. I wanted to get a drink out of the fridge. So I hope everyone is all right. Let's make sure things are working from a stream perspective. Hope everyone's all right. That's the wrong button. That's definitely the wrong button on the phone. There we go. It does appear to be on. It does appear to be working. We need that working as well, which is fine. Plonk that there for a minute. Yes, everyone appears to be doing well. Everyone appears to be good. Mike, Dave, good to see you in the chat. Like I say, definitely going to be a bit of a different stream tonight. Obviously, we had a bit of a different one. We had a different one about a week ago, Wednesday as well, into the bargain, but necessary, I feel, given what was going on. We're just going to make sure that the bits and pieces have turned up in the places they need to turn up, which it looks like they have, because this is going to just be a pretty chill one. Not going to be the same as all the other bits and pieces, but we are definitely going to make sure that we're rocking and rolling, because there's a few bits obviously to talk about, and we've got a few little bits and pieces to chat about too. I do very quickly need to bring up the SNL bits and pieces on my phone, because I've suddenly just realised I've not clicked on them over there. It should hopefully be all right at the moment. Either way, we need to get rocking and rolling. And one thing I need to do is I need to click the buttons and make sure I've got the stream from Davos up to watch. So we will just very, very quickly say, as you can see, we're sitting down again just because I'm tired. I'm really, really tired. So we will get on and do our usual bits and pieces. People start to filter in. Guys, gals, and the gender fluid and all beyond the binary. Well, it's Friday rather than Wednesday. Merry Christmas, Happy Boxing Day for those of you who are interested in such things, and welcome back to the BOTW What's Current stream. My name is Anthony Russell, here to do a bit more of a laid-back, casual kind of stream, much more relaxed affair today, rather than what we usually do here on the show. But what do we usually do here on the What's Current stream? We cover the absolute lot when it comes to British hockey. Every game from across every division, mostly on a Wednesday night at 8 p.m. We do the Elite League, we do all divisions of the NIHL, we do the SNL, we do the WNIHL, the whole kit and caboodle is what we do. Belfast to Bradford, Leeds to Lee Valley, we leave nobody out. But as it's Boxing Day and we're chilling and we're very, very much in hockey season, there's been games in the Elite League today, there's been one game in the National today, and right now, my favourite tournament of the entire hockey year is happening. We are on day one of the Spengler Cup live from Davos in Switzerland. So what we are doing tonight is we're just going to chill. We're just going to chill and chat. The first period has already happened in tonight's game between Team Canada and the US College Select. And basically, what we're saying is if you go to the very, very first comment in the chat tonight, click on the link, stick that on the other screen, and we're just going to chat here about British hockey, European hockey, world hockey, all the bits and pieces that are going on. There's plenty to chat about, like I say. Games happening in the Elite have finished up pretty much in the Elite League. There's just one game going on out of today's games. A big win for Leeds already this evening. We'll have a look about the rest of the fixtures for both the Elite League and the National League over the Christmas period. We'll have a quick look at the NIHL, rest of the NIHL. We'll have a look at the WNIHL bits and pieces as well as to what's going on, and just basically chat about hockey for a little bit. Not going to go full bore, not going to go hardcore on all bits and pieces. We do have a few graphics to kind of look at, and then basically in the new year, heading into sort of New Year's Eve, we'll kind of do a little bit more better kind of thing, as it were, and do a more regular stream, because obviously last time we had a bit of a strange one. But yeah, basically the big things that you need to know about tonight. Firstly, banners on the wall at wordpress.com, nearly 15 years worth of stuff over there to check out, and of course the last in the box thinking, that is my weekly write-up roundup of the last game I've commentated on. For those of you who aren't familiar, I am the match night commentator for the Guildford Flames, and therefore what I'm doing this season is, this is my first year of doing that. Every game that I commentate on, I'm trying to give you a little bit of insight as to what it's like to be a commentator in British ice hockey, as well as giving you a bit of an analysis and a look at the game itself. So you have last Saturday's game between the Flames and the Coventry Blaze that you can check out. The other series we have over there on the website is Hockey Stories. We do long form, in-depth pieces of content where we talk to players, we talk about sort of people's sort of individual stories. We'll sometimes look into hockey history. We do a big mishmash of stuff, and of course the last one there is an article called "We've Come a Long, Long Way Together," which was my conversation with Widnes Wild netminder Luca Tasadri and with Deeside Dragons and Manchester Storm netminder Tyler Delabatouche. Those two have known each other since the age of 10. They've kind of played together, played apart, played together in conference and with England, and they're now, having started in the south of England, are now playing up in NIHL 1 Division North against each other. So it's just an article kind of looking at their stories and looking at those bits and pieces there. That is all over there on the website. The big thing for tonight, like I say, make sure you get up your streams so that you can watch, because Team Canada versus US College Selects from Davos is free to watch. The teams are back on the ice for the second period. And so they just should be starting there in the next sort of minute or two. Currently 0-0 between Team Canada and the US College Selects. Of course, the first game of the Spengler Cup happened this afternoon. A 5-2 win for defending champions HC Fribourg-Gotteron as they defeated Sparta Prague, another Prague, a city with a long lineage in the Spengler Cup. But basically, the thing to do is to join in with the chat over here on the right hand side of your screen, or sort of down below if you're on your phones. Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, anything you kind of want to throw in as we chat about bits and pieces. Then we can that's what we'll do. We're basically, like I say, we're not going to go too hardcore on the format tonight. We're just going to kind of chill out, have a drink, have a whatever, and just like I say, just watch some hockey together, because there's plenty of good stuff kind of going on. And that's what we're going to talk about. Like I say, there's hockey news to talk about too. We'll pull up a few bits and pieces on the screen as stuff is going on. So, like I say, plenty of good fun things happening already. So, like I say, what I do is I will very quickly click this, because what that should do then is pull up the Spengler Cup website that is there. As you can see, 0-0 in the first period between Team Canada and US College Selects. I suppose the thing I chuck into the chat for people who are watching is how I venture, because certainly I know Mike is in the chat. Mike has spent a lot of time in Sweden, but how familiar are people with, for people who aren't familiar with the Spengler Cup? So the Spengler Cup is a very, very old tournament. This is the 97th iteration of the Spengler Cup tournament. It's had a few breaks here and there for a bunch of reasons, but it's played every year, as you can see, in Davos in Switzerland. That's over in the east of the country, in the fantastic Davos Arena that now for sponsorship reasons does have a different name, the Zonda Crypto Arena, which is I believe an objectively terrible name, but but certainly what this started out was, this is a tournament that started out just after World War One, as a means of kind of letting teams from Germanic-speaking countries kind of sort of slowly reintegrate themselves back into sort of the international sporting landscape, rather than being sort of total pariahs, as it were, in that sense. And over the years it has waxed and waned as the tournament. The number of teams taking part has kind of fluctuated. Where teams have come from has fluctuated. But what you generally have, and has been the way in the Spengler Cup for the last sort of better part of sort of 2-3 decades, is you have a 6-team tournament. It always runs between Boxing Day and finishes up on New Year's Eve. You will always generally get, at the moment at any rate, you will get the hosts, of course, HC Davos from Switzerland, who play in the Swiss National League. You will also generally get a representative Team Canada. Now, this of course is not the full whack Canadian national side. It is a Team Canada made up of players playing in Europe. They will predominantly be in the Swiss league, because the National League in Switzerland does have a lot of Canadian imports in that one. It's a very and so what you will then generally get as well is you get one other Swiss team, one other team alongside Davos. This year, as we know, defending champions of the Spengler Cup, HC Fribourg-Gotteron. Over the last few years, we've had Lugano, we've had Ambri Piotta joining in with the tournament as well. And then you will generally get a couple of teams from other parts of the world. Prior to Russia being an international sporting pariah, you would occasionally get Russian teams in there. SKA St. Petersburg have played, for example. You'll generally get a team from kind of middle Europe, so generally a lot of Czech teams have taken part. Taken part. Vitkovice have taken part. Sparta Prague, of course, again taking part this year. Usually you get some sort of Scandinavian team. So we have IFK Helsinki taking part this time around. And then you'll generally be sort of another European team of some description. The change this year is the inclusion of the side that you see playing Team Canada on the screen right now. This US College Select team. So basically a team made up of NCAA Division 1 players, which is a bit of a mishmash of people. Mike, I can see is stuck in the chat. The netminder for Team Canada this evening is a Canadian national playing against Team Canada, but it's effectively some of the best and the brightest of the NCAA. A couple of big names missing out, of course, that aren't there. Gavin McKenna, probably one of the most talked about collegiate prospects of the last little while, not included in the roster, and not a big surprise, I don't think, in that sense, but lots of good things happening there. I can just see that Team Canada, Tanner Fritz, has taken a penalty there he's taken a 2-minute tripping call. So the US Collegiate Select heading to the power play here in the second period. Just looking at elsewhere in the chat, Jamie, good to see us. Some great crowds expected this weekend in the National. Both games between Peterborough and MK and Swindon and Bristol. I believe those are just sold out. Just under I know certainly at least one of the MK Peterborough games are sold out. Just under 1,600 at Hull today. Also need to sell out in Leeds and Telford. It's that time of year. Lots of people excited for the hockey. Can't argue that one at all. Oxford University has won it 4 times. Yes, Spengler Cup history-wise, yes. Oxford, one of the predominant early powerhouses of the Spengler tournament. Of course, so in the early days, of course, like all ice sports were, played outside in Davos, and because of course Oxford University students never short of a bit of money in the early days post World War One. Spent lots of time in places in Switzerland, so ice hockey was a thing that was picked up. Oxford University Blues are a very, very different prospect in this day and age. It should be said, but yes, very much a part of the history of this great tournament. Power play not going brilliantly there for the college selects, as just looking at bits and pieces. The Canadians having much more of the puck on this power play than the Americans. I'm just going to quickly position my phone slightly differently, just so I can see things a little bit better there. But yeah, plenty of bits and pieces going on at the moment. Don't know about the crowds at Romford, Solway, and Sheffield. Over 1150 sold at Bison. Yeah, I'd be surprised if I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up being a little bit higher for Basingstoke. Certainly, I know from a Guildford perspective, having spoken to folk there, the game on Tuesday, the 30th against Cardiff is, I believe, a sellout. Tomorrow night is not quite as of yet. I believe there's a few seats left in Guildford tomorrow. The goal for Team Canada, short-handed goal for the Canadians against the youngsters. Nate Schnarr opens up Team Canada's account for this iteration of the Spengler Cup. We'll just click a couple of buttons there, refresh the bits and pieces, and that should hopefully, he says, well, that's not updated itself. What we'll do is we'll scroll down past the stream. So of course we can't show that. We'll get into a bit of a wobble if we do that. We'll risk getting ourselves banned. Nope, that's the wrong button there. We want that window to do that. There we go. Now you can sort of see all the penalties and bits and pieces that are being called. Mike's put the Swedish variant in, I can see there. But there we are, yeah. Nate Schnarr from Derek Grant at 24-10, and the Canadians are on the board against the youngsters. We will just very quickly as well, just as we're talking about, as we've got the bits and pieces up, if I click this button here, the page will hopefully then refresh and adjust itself. We will just quickly amend and pull bits and pieces across over here, just so that we can see most of it. But one game, of course, today already in the National Division, the one game that was on the docket today, and a pretty big, sizable win for the Leeds Knights. Obviously been a bit of a tough season all in all, much more up and down season by their standards for Leeds. Having, as you can see there, lost 3 of their last 5, but a pretty big, sizable win to make a statement on the road at the world's most versatile arena. Hull, of course, who a lot was expected of, even though people did question, including me, when I interviewed Matty Davies during the summer about the idea about signing 4 import forwards. Of course, they now brought Brock Bartholomew back, who scored the lone goal today for the Seahawks in this game. But yeah, Hull have been really sort of all over the place, but it's been a much tougher prospect for Leeds. Swindon have shown that they pretty much are the team to beat right now. Sheffield have really stepped things up this season and look much stronger than they have before. As it's a much tougher prospect for the Knights in this one. But 2 goals from Liam Payton, 2 goals from Arturs Mikovic, and goals from Sam Dunn and Finn Braden doing the damage in this one. I'm just gonna, because what we want to try and do here, if I click on the team stats tab, what we will do as well, because that's hopefully then pulled things through to kind of have a look at there, and you can see there as well the bigger issue here for Matty Davies. 36 shots on goal, only 1 scored, and then they've let up 6 on 32. That is not good. Not good numbers. Canadians having a bit of a chance there. Goal, and the referee's blown it dead. There's a lot of arguing as one of the can't tell which Canadian that is in the immediacy. Immediately in the face of one of the officials thinking that he scored a goal, but the officials are right on the doorstep saying no to that one. But yeah, just some pretty bad sort of shooting numbers for things there for Hull, and that of course is one of the big kickers really for Hull this year, is that firepower, and lots of guys able to put shots on net, but you've got to put the puck in the back of the net. We'll click onto this button, and then have a quick look at the Elite League bits pieces. Oh, that is incredibly close. Puck was sat there loose behind the netminder and has then been poked in. They are actually having a look at this. We've got a video review in Davos, as they're going to check this and see whether it's a goal or not. But in the Elite League, as you see, a full docket's worth of fixtures today. Some pretty crazy games all in all. Cardiff beat out Coventry 5-4. Cardiff were 2-0 to the good in this game. Riley Brandt took a major penalty for fighting an unwilling combatant. Coventry scored 4 goals on the major power play in this game before the Devils pulled themselves back into it and ended up winning the game. Steelers and Panthers, of course, top of the table clash. Pretty big one. And who else do you want in those moments to score the big goals for you but the captain? It's Robert Dowd. Some great work by Mitch Hurd on the overtime period to weave his way around, create a bit of space. And Rob Dowd just seems to have the freedom of the slot to walk into and fires past Kevin Carr to get the extra point for the Steelers in that one. Always good to beat your big rivals in a game like that. A much easier time for Glasgow against Dundee. Obviously, quite a close scoreline in that one, but the Clan ending up with a 3-1 win to compound Dundee's misery. It's been pretty rough on the Stars in recent times. Guildford were 2-0 up inside 3 minutes in Manchester and end up having a nightmare second period. End up going down 3-2. No goals in the final frame as the Flames just cannot find a way to pull themselves back into the game. Those two sides will meet tomorrow in Guildford, of course. You can join me on Flames TV for commentary of that one. That should be a lot of fun. Goal has been given for Canada. 2-0 2-0 now to the Canadians. After a scoreless first period, Canada have now managed to get 2 goals in relatively quick succession. We're just going to see who's exactly been credited with that goal, and it looks like Brett Seney is the person who's been credited with it. The man on the doorstep. Big chance there with the puck just loose behind the netminder, eventually poked over the line, but it has been given. And with just under 14 and a half minutes left in the second period, 2-0 Team Canada over the US Canadian select. With the Spengler Cup, because of the format, of course, you've got 2 groups of 3, and it will work its way through till eventually get your final. So the teams that win today's games will get tomorrow off effectively. The losers end up playing tomorrow against the extra kind of spare team in the group. So Sparta Prague are playing Helsinki tomorrow, and the loser of this game will be in the main event of tomorrow night. Saturday evening in Davos, so the loser of Team Canada versus the US College Selects will take on the hosts Hartse in the Davos arena tomorrow evening. Should be face-off times. Usually it'll be 2 for the afternoon fixture, and then that's 10 past, 7 for the evening fixture across the duration of the games they play here. Just looking back at the Elite League bits and pieces, you can see there 4-0 Belfast currently against the Flyers. David Booth and Milan Lucic in the lineup tonight for the Flyers. Not able to have quite the impact they were hoping for. In fact, what we'll do very quickly, we'll just have a quick poke into the game bits and pieces of that game, so we can just see what's going on. What's going on there? I do not believe. We'll see whether any of the new boys have got any bits and pieces. No, they have. They have not. But you can see their power play goal late in the first there from Nicholas Gay, making it 1-0 to Belfast, and a 3-goal second period. You see their goals in. It's a couple of goals early on there. One from Scott Conway, one from Mike Lee. If you've not had the opportunity to see Mike Lee in action, fascinating player. Every time I've seen it, Belfast fans I've spoken to have said that he's either kind of a 2 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 player. When I've seen him, he's always been on his best. 4th goal there, as we can see, from Jordan Kawaguchi. And we can. I'm interested as to what's happened here. 39-29, and both Simon Dupré and Kieran Long given delay of the game. Adjustment of equipment is an interesting choice of words. I wonder if that's the back end of the website causing a few problems there. We'll just pull this one back into the middle there so we can kind of see what's going on. So what was a pretty even first period and a lot of vim and vigour from quite a young, as you can appreciate, US college side. The age and experience of these Canadians is starting to kind of tell a little bit now. Obviously, the pace kind of lies with the youngsters, but it's all the little tricks of the trade. And of course, one of the bigger issues for the Canadians for the college selects is the Canadians have a chap in goal by the name of James Reimer, who, if you're not familiar, had more than a cup of coffee in the National Hockey League. It should be said. Oh, apologies. Have a quick swig of the. We're on the alcohol-free beer tonight. Can't lie. Just having a calmer, quiet one. I actually ended up waking up during the night with a pretty sore stomach. I think I overdid it ever so slightly. If you didn't see the photo I posted, I had a double IPA 15% beer with Christmas lunch yesterday. So I don't do things by halves, but also as well probably wasn't. Didn't have that. That was the only beer I had all day with any alcohol in. But as you can tell, 15.5% on top of everything I ate. Probably a little bit too much on this one. An SHL team, Tifo, held their large banner upside down during today's match. Oh dear, that's pretty that's pretty shocking, all things considered. We will just very quickly, just while they're having a power break. We'll just quickly head back to the bits and pieces and just have a chat about what's coming up tomorrow in the Elite League, because it's a pretty not as full a schedule. 4 games on the Saturday and then the one game on the Sunday. We've had Belfast and Fife meeting tonight in Belfast in the late face-off, and those two sides will relocate back to Kirkcaldy on Sunday for Milan Lucic and David Booth's home debut for the Flyers. Of course, they are on the ice tonight for Fife, not having the impact I think Jamie Russell would have liked so far. However, 4 games in the Elite League tomorrow evening. Guildford versus Manchester, like I said, you can join me on Flames TV for that one. Of course, the Storm 3-2 winners tonight at the Storm Shelter, having been 2-0 down. Coventry take on Cardiff at the Sky Dome. That's also a 6 p.m. face-off in the Midlands between those two sides. Cardiff coming off the back of that 5-4 come-from-behind victory this evening. Dundee and Glasgow will try again. That's a 7 p.m. face-off at the DIA, and Nottingham and Sheffield 7 p.m. at the Motorpoint in Nottingham for that one tomorrow, as everybody kind of does home and homes. If we'll just skip down as well, because there are a fair few games on Tuesday as well into the bargain. Because of course I will be back working again on Tuesday night. Guildford and Cardiff is a 7 p.m. face-off on Flames TV, so you can join us for that one too. Early face-off in Belfast on Tuesday, a 4 p.m. face-off on a Tuesday afternoon for the Giants and the Clan, and then 7:30 face-offs: Sheffield versus Manchester, Dundee versus Fife. And then New Year's Eve, a few more games to finish out the calendar year 2025 in the Elite League. Glasgow versus Belfast, Fife versus Dundee, and Nottingham versus Coventry. All of it, 1 3 o'clock face off, 2 4 o'clock face off. So all the hockey should be done by around 6:30 on New Year's Eve, and of course around some point at sort of late morning, because they usually face off around sort of the midday, midday local time. So it'll be somewhere between 11 and 11:30. You will get the final of the Spengler Cup on New Year's Eve as well. So you are set for hockey across the next few days. We will as well just take a quick poke. A big chance here for the Canadians, putting on a lot of pressure now, and I think the Americans just trying to kind of ride out the storm and then break very, very quickly. Of course, questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, stick whatever you want in the chat, and we'll of course can sort of talk through what we're thinking of the game so far. Any big names on either side for either team tonight that we're interested in? Certainly, really enjoyed the first game today. I actually made a point. I very rarely do this normally. I slightly shortened my son's afternoon TV time so that I could put Freiburg Göttingen versus Sparta Prague on the TV in our house. Put the VPN on, got the Swiss feed on for the commentary, so I could get the whole experience in German. Really good game. Both sides look pretty decent. I think the issue for Sparta just looked a little bit flat-footed on occasions. Freiburg Göttingen are a very solid side. I don't know if Andrew Day's made it into the chat yet, but they've got the old long-term Frölunda coach coaching Freiburg Göttingen this year, whose name is just escaping me as we're talking about it. But yeah, as well, one of the other sort of little quirks of Spengler is that teams will bring their rosters, but they will also augment. So they will kind of borrow players from other teams. Very common for the Swiss rosters to kind of borrow players from other teams within the National League to kind of just bolster the rosters. And it's kind of one of those things, you don't ask the same team too many times for too many people, kind of thing, and it all works out like that. The one thing we should do, of course, as well, is just because there is bits and pieces in the national, and because, of course, last week, due to the nature of the show where we had Chris Gadsby on and John Ford chatting about unification bits and pieces, we didn't get to use Max's graphics, apologies. For those of you who aren't familiar, as we edge towards 2025, Max Van Mullen, netminder for the Romford Raiders and the Romford Buccaneers, as part of some of his graphic design work for school, does these wonderful bits and pieces for me, has done now for the last couple of seasons. We're massively appreciative of Max and everything he does. Big shout out to him. Big shout out to his parents, Eric and Tanya, of course, for helping kind of sort bits and pieces out. But of course, there's the game that we had today, a 6-1 win for the Leeds Knights over the Hull Seahawks, and then a busy day tomorrow, Saturday the 27th, a full 5 games on with the one team sitting out, of course, an 11 team national division that we get. Basingstoke versus Romford, Bristol versus Swindon in the Battle of the Southwest, Leeds coming off the back of tonight taking on Sheffield, which would be a really fascinating game. MK versus Peterborough, part 1 of the Ashes across the festive weekend, and then Solway versus Telford up in Dumfries tomorrow evening. And then on Sunday, for most people, it's a little bit of an about face. Peterborough versus MK, and we have a goal. We have a third goal for the Canadians. They are now with just over 9 minutes to go, and it's a pretty commanding lead now for Team Canada. Mason Shaw has made it 3-0 to the Canadians in Davos. Of course, then stuck the camera on a child looking sort of thoroughly both tired and slightly confused as to what's going on. But just a little bit too much space. Defense a little bit too static. Man driving the middle has drawn the guys across, and Shaw's just there on the left, just to the left of the netminder with a bit of space to just fire in as the keeper is sprawling. Pretty solid goal. This is what It's that little bit of experience edge that Canada are going to have over a bunch of collegiate players. This is stuff that these young men will learn. I think the thing for the college selects here is about turning up and putting in a shift and learning, because this is a really, really great learning environment for them. These, a lot of these young guys are going to be NHLers, AHLers, ECHLers within the next couple of years. So their ability and their chance to kind of play on this big international stage, well respected international stage, is really, really big. So the score, obviously they will want to try and get a goal at some point before the end of this game, but you do have to think there's kind of a bit more of a bigger picture where the for the college selects, where the mentality of the Canadians is to really try and dominate. Of course, Canada have not won this tournament now since pre-COVID, so a big one for them. Either way, though, as we're coming back to the National League fixtures, Sunday, Peterborough MK in Peterborough, Romford and Bison. Sheffield welcomes Solway to Ice Sheffield. The second part of the Battle of the Southwest between Swindon and Bristol, and Telford versus Hull on Sunday, which we heard is getting close to a sellout. And we talked about them needing it, and they have managed to do it. It is a goal for the US College Selects. They've managed to put the puck in the back of the net. Gavin McCarthy for the College Select side. James Reimer beaten at last. It does look very strange as they've put the puck to they've put the they put the picture on some fans holding a scarf that says collegiate selects. It just looks very weird. Just a very odd thing. It feels very 1890s. But lovely pass there out from low to the McCarthy, skating into the slot. Comes from below the red line, gets to the hash marks. Reimer has already gone down, goes top shelf over the shoulder, and that will give those young men a great bit of confidence. We like that already. Elsewhere, National League, I've got one more graphic that Max has done for us, because there is one game on New Year's Eve. Nothing on Tuesday, where the Elite League has got a pretty full schedule. The National Division kind of being focusing much more on the occasional midweek fixture, but more during the weekend. So the 2025 calendar year finishes off for the NHL National Division with the Yorkshire Derby between Sheffield and Leeds. That is a nice early face-off, 1 p.m. on New Year's Eve at Ice Sheffield between those two. Apologies, because I had some other bits and pieces in here, which I am just going to very, very quickly try and pull up. What's happened with this? Because there were other graphics in here. That's interesting. We are going to click some buttons, and I think we're going to fiddle momentarily with this, because I put some other ones in here. Then we will, because there should be so I do that. Why is that not going? That's very annoying. I thought there was more graphics in this. What has happened here? I'm going to make sure I've not accidentally put them in the wrong place. That's probably going to be the bigger issue here. Oh, that's very annoying. There we are. That's why they were in the wrong directory. Let's click some buttons here and see if I can't get them into the right place. There we go. That'll help with that, because we did have a couple of extra graphics to talk about. So then if I fiddle with my settings, apologies for this, and as I say, folks, I'll put stuff in the wrong folder. There we go. So now if I go to there, we've got a few more fixtures to talk about over the course of the next few days in the below the Elite League and the National, because we've not got a ton of action happening in the rest of the NIHL Division 1 and Division 2 over the next couple of days. Bit in North 1, but as you can see on Saturday tomorrow, Sheffield Scimitars and the Blackburn Hawks, a massive task, of course, for the Scimitars, who are yet to win a game. Them and the Kilmarnock Thunder in the SNL still very much in the Goose Egg Club no wins league or cup for either side so far. And then the two sides will have another go at things on Sunday at the Hawks' Nest. Nothing in, as we know as well, nothing in South 1 over Christmas. All of those sides are having a bit of a break. One game though in North 2. That's on. That's a Sunday, the 27th of December. That doesn't help a massive amount. However, Sheffield are playing Altrincham on one of those 2 days. It's a very early face-off there for the Titans, of course, where the Scimitars have had a pretty rubbish 25-26, all things considered so far. The Titans running the table so far, just 2 losses in all competitions for the NIHL 2 North team playing out of I Sheffield. Altrincham, well, they'll be looking to spring a bit of an upset. They've been a bit up and down, a bit inconsistent themselves, but no team can ever not go into a game trying to get something out of it in these situations. But you would probably lean towards the Titans going again, and then only the one game in South 2. All things considered, and that is in the Eddie Joseph Memorial Cup, the extra cup competition that we have in South 2. That's the Guildford Phoenix and our friends here, the originators of BOTW Rule 2. Rule 1, of course, is DBAD, don't be a dick, and Rule 2 is never count out the Invicta Mustangs. The Guildford Phoenix, of course, who lost to the Slough Spitfires relatively recently as well. A massive upset in the context of the fact that the Spitfires, this new young side, kind of taking a lot of the Slough juniors who aren't quite at the level for the Jets yet and pulling them through. So we will see how Guildford can kind of respond off the back of a surprising loss against an Invicta side that has shown time and time again that it can not just compete with, but it can also take down the big sides if they are unable to take them seriously in those moments. 5-0 Belfast now, says as Mike has put in the chat. We will quickly just press the button there, and yes, as you can see, 5-0 Belfast, as we have the Team Canada leading the US Collegiate Selects by 3-1. 5 minutes and change left on the clock there. Reed Irwin, 27 seconds into the third period, has put the Giants in a commanding lead. So we've had an adjustment there. Kieran Long and Simone Dupre called for delay of the game, late lineup rather than an adjustment of their equipment. So probably just taking a bit too long to get themselves sorted in the face-off dot. All things considered, there, we will just quickly pop the Spengler Cup bits and pieces back on the screen, as we can see. It's now pressed the wrong button and made that all leap down. But there we are, as we can see there. Gavin McCarthy from Joey Muldowney with that first goal for the Collegiate Selects to get them on the board in this game. Canadians just pulling themselves out from behind their own net there. The other big thing, really, I suppose, that we kind of need to talk about is the news out of the lower echelons of North American hockey. As we know, a few of these guys on the Canadian side and the US Collegiate side probably have a high chance, and a few of the Canadians will have played in the ECHL. We have had the news, obviously, over the last couple of days that the Professional Hockey Players Association have moved towards a labour stoppage. The lack of collective bargaining agreement between the Professional Hockey Players Association and the ECHL as a league has been a thing that's been outstanding since the beginning of the season. So effectively, what we have is a sort of a very strange situation where the third tier, that sort of double A standard of hockey, which is used very, very heavily by NHL sides to help develop some of those prospects who are a bit rougher around the edges and need some real serious game time. A league that has been looking towards expanding itself out to 32 teams, so every single NHL team has an AHL affiliate, because there's teams in there's 32 in the AHL, and then 32 in the ECHL, so that hockey in North America ends up kind of mirroring what happens in baseball. For those of you not familiar with baseball, the baseball developmental hierarchy has many more layers to it. It's much more kind of convoluted in that sense. But every team, every Major League Baseball team has an affiliate at AAA, has an affiliate at AA, has a high A, low A, rookie ball. And you can effectively end up being drafted to an organisation and play for multiple different minor league teams in your journey up to playing in Major League Baseball. And hockey has slowly kind of started poking its way that way. Gone are the days in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s where NHL teams kind of owned their own teams in junior leagues. For example, the reason you have the Kitchener Rangers in the OHL is because they used to be owned by the New York Rangers. That's why the uniforms are the same, pretty much. But what has happened here with the ECHL, the collective bargaining agreement between the Professional Hockey Players Association and the ECHL ran out at the end of last season. The sides have been negotiating since kind of January. It was agreed to start the season without a CBA in place to allow teams to kind of play, allow guys to get work, because guys playing at that lower end of hockey, they need money to survive. They are not large. Most of them are not on large contracts of any description, let alone being on an NHL entry level deal, as a lot of the NHL prospects in the league will be on at this point. But effectively, it's got to the point where the Players Association have said that the situation is no longer viable for them as players. That players are not being paid enough money to kind of survive, to thrive, to kind of do what it is they need to do. Guys are unable to kind of make ends meet, being paid almost below minimum wage in some places. That there's issues with equipment. One of the things that it was in the original PHPA statement was about the fact that that a lot of players couldn't get helmets that fit them. That some equipment was being given to them was second hand rather than brand new. And so that was sort of a big issue, as well as guys just being paid a reasonable living wage for what they do. Canada 2, the penalty kill. Mike Scarboza, who's playing in the National League, I believe for Lugano, has taken a cross-checking penalty from the top of in front of the USCS crease there, trying to stand his ground and just cross-checked the defenseman in the back. So we'll see what happens on that front. But with the ECHL have talked about the fact that it's about franchises being sustainable, that they have put forward an offer that has been sort of turned down by the negotiating committee for the PHPA, and we're now sort of in a bit of a strange situation where some games are going ahead because teams are in a position where they're able to kind of play, and some teams are not in a position to play. So some games have been called off. Tonight ahead of them icing. I'm pretty certain Adirondack is out of bits and pieces. What we will do, if we quickly pop up on the website, this is the joy of the tech, of course, where we can get up the ECHL website, so we can see from the headlines that there's a few bits and pieces going on here. We can see that Worcester Railers versus Maine Mariners is postponed. Jacksonville Icemen's game is postponed as well. So let's just go to the ECHL website very, very quickly. Remember to keep sticking your bits and pieces, stick your comments and your thoughts in the chat as we go along. Thanks to those of you who are joining in already. We'll just quickly go to the news. There's a bit of a coming together behind James Reimer's net with the collegiate select still on the power play. That news is not there at all, which is not very, very helpful in the slightest. So they just not put anything on the front page of their own website. What we will do in that case, let's see if we can't find let's get the Twitter account of the ECHL up and look at it that way, because they definitely have released a statement about it. 6-0 Belfast now. So thanks to Mike for putting that in the chat. Should the UK have the same setup? I think it's, in terms of having that level sort of worth of developmental bits and pieces, I think it's tough to have it in the same way. Now, I believe 6-0, if I'm correct, that is a first Elite League goal for Carter Hamill for the Belfast Giants. A Belfast boy, of course. Carter and Cam is... yes, it is. It is a first Elite League goal for Carter Hamill. Him and his brother Cam, of course, both Belfast boys. That will be a massive, massive moment for the Hamill household. Massive congratulations to Carter. I'm a big, big fan of both Hamill boys. Both absolutely fearless. So that is a really, really huge, huge moment there for that young man. Carter Hamill from Kieran Long from Reed Irwin. And that feels like what a surreal moment as well for Carter Hamill when you think that there is something like nearly 2,000 NHL games between 3 players on that Fife roster right now, and Carter Hamill has scored his first Elite League goal in that game against that team. That is bonkers. Well done, that young man. That is brilliant stuff. How can you not be romantic about hockey, I think, is the point there. Finally, this is loaded up, so big thanks to that one. Just take another swig there. Good save by Reimer. So we click the buttons and we will get the statement up on the screen there from the ECHL, the last one that they put. Unfortunately, union leaders deprived players of the opportunity to vote on our last, best and final offer. An offer that would dramatically raise player salaries by 20% in the first year, boost the per diem rate, that's the amount they get paid per day for like food and bits and pieces, guarantee more off days and expand the top of the line equipment available to players. We did everything possible to avoid the outcome and hope that the union leadership will drop its unworkable scheduling demands, let the players vote on our offer and make it possible for players to return to work. Now, firstly, that is a ridiculously poor statement from the ECHL saying it is their last, best and final offer, because you've taken your negotiation far too much into the public there, because ultimately you're going to have to move on some of these points should you want these players to return, because ultimately I don't think you're going to get enough players out of the SPHL and the FPHL to come and fill in some of the rosters for the teams that aren't that haven't been able to play as a result of this. It's very, very petulant. The other thing as well I would say, not that they're listening, but I will say this out loud, do not cross a picket line, would be my response there. It is a different kettle of fish for the players who are NHL and AHL contracted, because they are not bound by the terms of the ECHL collective bargaining agreement, because their contracts are held elsewhere. Those players are free to turn up for work. They are not crossing the picket line, although I would strongly encourage any of those players to not do that in support of their fellow professionals who are ECHL players, who are members of the union. I would encourage them, if they could, to not do that, because I think that you should never cross a picket line. So that is a personal thing for me. As you know, you can't separate sport and politics. Here we have a prime example of that. End of the second period in Davos, 3-1 to the good are the Canadians over the US Collegiate Select. So we will let that one pause momentarily, which means I can have a quick check of a few other bits and pieces that are going on. Just get rid of that and just open up Twitter very, very quickly. 7-0. The goals keep on raining down for the Belfast Giants at the moment. Certainly, what we'll do is just quickly pull up the Belfast Twitter account, because I can do that now because the game has paused. No, they haven't updated that. It'll be at so Reed Owen for 5, Carter Hamill for 6, and then we'll just see who has made it 7. Who has scored the 7th goal for Belfast? It is, it's Carson Tawinski, the former Philadelphia Flyer that's obviously been drafted in by Belfast relatively recently. Patrick Grasso returning to the ECHL, back to Adirondack, where the Adirondack Thunder, where he is one of the franchise leaders in points and scoring, and they've replaced him with Carson Tawinski, who had started the season over in Slovakia. We will very quickly just get rid of that statement. But there certainly are a couple of games on a couple of bits and pieces there. No statement there, particularly on the no statement there on the games that have been missing on that one. What we'll do, just because the other bits and pieces are done, we'll click off and we'll click back to the full screen. But yeah, so the ECHL bit. The ECHL bits and pieces, like I say, it's for me, it's a pretty petulant statement, because ultimately, yes, you need to kind of make a bit of a show of force. The players are saying that they're not going to play and that they will go on strike. There have been a few voices that have sort of said, why are we striking in this kind of in these bits and pieces? Ultimately, and ultimately as well, the ridiculousness of the ECHL is kind of painting it like they haven't put this offer to the membership. Well, ultimately, that's what a union does. The whole point of a union, the whole point of collective bargaining like this, is the union negotiates on behalf of its membership. Otherwise, you are negotiating with 250 odd guys. That's not how that should work. The whole point of a union is that a union sends in people to do the negotiations. If those people, you are, as a member of the union, you are delegating that aspect of what's going on to these people to do that. If they do not believe that the offer on the table is good enough to present to the membership, then that is what they will do. You cannot have a situation where a labour union is presenting every single offer to the membership the entire time. And ultimately, this is the point of negotiation. There will be movement on all of these points that have been discussed. Certainly, one of the things that a lot of the players from different clubs have sort of said is that a lot of the teams are run relatively well. You can think of some of these teams like the Kalamazoo Wings have been are franchises that are 60, 70 years old. They're very, very old clubs that are run really, really well. The South Carolina Stingrays, for example, another organisation that is traditionally known for being a well-run hockey organisation. But the idea is that all of those teams pull things up to the level that they should be. Former Nottingham Panther Weston Michaud, who's just got his doctorate from the University of North Dakota, talked about the fact about having to have jobs to make ends meet during the season as a professional hockey player. And if you're playing professional hockey, you shouldn't need a job outside of it. If you choose to do other bits and pieces outside, whether it's school, whether it's running your own business and those kind of things, that's okay. But your hockey is your profession. That should be your money or pay should cover that, if you are a professional in that sense. Otherwise, you are a semi-professional. This is the difference in Britain between the elite league, for a lot of guys, and the national division, is that you are paid to play hockey. You don't do anything else. You can go and do other bits and pieces with your free time, should you so choose. We know how many guys have gone and gotten university degrees. As a Basingstoke Bison fan, we got the prime years of Thomas Karpov, who, in my opinion, is the best import to have one of the best, the best, if not one of the best, to have played in the old EPL and in the old NIHL split when it happened. Basingstoke got 3 prime years of Thomas Karpov because we got him onto his bachelor's and then his master's at Winchester University. So, what you do in your spare time is cool, but your equipment should fit. Guys should be paid enough to not need to worry about making ends meet. Health insurance should cover you as a hockey player for a year. You shouldn't be left scrambling during the summer to make sure you have medical coverage if an injury you picked up during the season goes on and you need surgery long after the fact. That is not an unreasonable thing. Carl Boudret has made it 8-0 to Belfast, and David Booth and Milan Lucic are getting a true baptism of fire to the Elite Ice Hockey League. It looks like at the moment, pretty crazy night over in Belfast. What we might do is I will probably just see if I can find some. Eventually, he will be checking it out. Let's see if I can drop Patrick Smith a quick message. And just see if Patrick. So I venture Patrick is probably back home, and we will see if he responds to see if he responds to that message while he's there. Yes, 8-0 Belfast now. Where all the other games tonight have been relatively close. Oh no, 9. Oh dear, everybody's giving up by the look of it. Just quickly pull up the game sheet. What's the game sheet saying? 9. David Goodwin has made it 9-0 with just under 10 minutes to go. 9-0 at 50:37. I can only assume. Well, according to this, they have not changed netminders, or have they changed netminders? No, they do not appear to have changed netminders at this point, which is mildly terrifying. Oh dear, that is not good. That is not good for Fife, and we can only see what the response will be momentarily when they get back into it. We'll just keep a quick. Well, there's one there from the View from the Bridge Twitter account. Can we extend a warm welcome to the Elite League for Milan Lucic? Well, as I said, baptism of fire, if nothing else. A very, very warm one. Imagine the chants: Belfast, we want 10, Fife, we want 1, we want anything at all. I was speaking to Laura very briefly earlier today, the Fife Flyers live stream commentator, because she put out a tweet at like 9:25, where she was on the ferry over and it was already on the Copperberg, and I said it's 9:25 in the morning. She said, "Yep, I had one at 9:00." Laura, God love you, but I think you're probably on a few more by now, and you're going to need them by the end of this one. Jeebus. What a night for the Fife Flyers, and what a debut into British hockey for former Stanley Cup winner Milan Lucic. What a crazy game they appear to be having there. I'm just quickly pulling up Carter Hamill's goal, just to see if just to have a look and see whether it's relatively decent. Nice pass across, and the defenseman's just not really made much of an effort to shut Hamill down. Notably a good head shorter than most of his teammates in that section, but on that line. But just really simple stuff. Defenseman of Lake passes across to Long, who just pulls the defenseman across, and Hamill's just got all the space in the world to skate onto. It just works really well for him. Yes, 9 different scorers as well into the bargain, and yeah, a bad night at the office for the Fife Flyers by the look of it. And well, with David Booth and Milan Lucic in the lineup, the only way is up, I suppose, at the moment. But that is the nature of things. Press some buttons there. Just how long is left in the intermission? About 8 minutes or so left in the intermission of the game between Canada and the US. Like I say, we're not going hardcore, not going hammer and tongs tonight. We're just, like I say, having a bit of a chilled out one this evening, and kind of more back to regular bits and pieces. Next week, I think, is probably how we'll do it, because we'll have had a few more games and bits and pieces. Of course, it is much quieter over this part, because you don't get many games in the in the lower regions of the NIHL. But that's the joy of bits and pieces. We get hockey, but we don't get sort of massive super hardcore hockey. Folks who might have seen it, I don't know. I did put a photo out of it, but if you didn't see it, we did get a fun little coaster from the missus, which was this one. I just want to watch hockey and ignore all of my adult problems, which is very true. Are you streaming New Year's Eve? Undecided, Dave. It will either be Wednesday or it will be New Year's Eve. It'll be one of the two. But I'm happy. I'm sort of happy to kind of go with what people want, whether they prefer New Year's Eve or not. New Year's Eve, of course, people are generally out doing bits and pieces, so Wednesday might be a better night for it in that sense. But more than prepared to kind of to have that conversation with people. What I will do, let's just see if I can't, whilst I'm sort of chatting here, pull this up, because we will have the I haven't got the fixtures upcoming for it, but we will have, or at least should be able to have, the bits and pieces from the SNL, the results from last weekend as they were. But am I streaming New Year's Eve? Like I say, undecided at the moment. If people would rather the Wednesday, I will quite happily do the Wednesday. If people would rather have a New Year's Eve Banners on the Wall New Year's Eve party, I'm quite happy to do a Banners on the Wall New Year's Eve party. Wednesday. Oh, Wednesday. No, of course, Wednesday is New Year's Eve. I'm an idiot. What am I doing? Let's do that. Let's pull these bits up. Apologies if the stream's going a bit jerky as a result. Wednesday is New Year's Eve. So yeah, I probably will for a bit. I don't know if I'll go full whack, but I will certainly do a bit. What we will have, he says, trying to do bits there. Let's click that. If I click this, that one. There we go. So we can at least have a look at the results from last weekend in the SNL. Thanks to Connor at SNL Ice Hockey Updates for all these bits and pieces. And well, as we can see, you probably would have put your money on it happening, but North Ayr getting another win on the board as they look to sort of push themselves away from Solway in 8th place. 5-2 win for the Wild over the Kilmarnock Thunder. Not a terrible result by Kilmarnock standards, all things considered, only losing 5-2. But big win for Aberdeen. They beat Whitley by 4 goals to 2 at home, of course, having lost to the Warriors earlier in the season. Big win for the Lynx as well. Certainly causes issues for Whitley, given the fact that they are still top, but have got so many they've played so many more games than the Capitals that it is making things interesting. We will just quickly, if I just quickly sort of skip past the fixture graphics from for Sunday, which then gives us the results from Sunday in the SNL. The reigning league champions, the Dundee Rockets, though. So a good Saturday for Aberdeen. Not quite as good as Sunday, as they ended up losing out to the Rockets by 4 goals to 2. 4-2 win as well for Paisley, of course. Massively added to their roster during this season. Added Gary Russell, added Barry McKenzie, added Craig Peacock into the lineup, slowly starting to get some more results their way. They beat Kirkcaldy by 4 goals to 2. Solway end up getting a win against Kilmarnock as well. It was a good chance this weekend for Kilmarnock against those bottom end sides to try and get a result. Unable to do so on that one. Solway winning by 6 goals to 2. What that means is that the SNL table at the moment looks like this, and Whitley, as we can see, still top, a point clear of Edinburgh, but Edinburgh have got 6 games in hand. The scheduling in this league is wonky as anything. Dundee now also on 27 points, but they played 3 games more than Edinburgh, and they've got 3 games in hand over Whitley. Paisley up to 25, and then Kirkcaldy, Aberdeen, North Ayr and Solway round out the playoff side. So we can see there Kilmarnock having shipped 11 goals this past weekend, 211 conceded in 17 games, whereas Kilmarnock have scored 32 in 17, not even averaging 2 goals a game at the moment, unfortunately, are the Thunder currently. But yeah, so probably will Kirkcaldy. I thought that's what I'd said, Max. So if you're watching, my apologies, but you've got to remember my butler taught me how to speak English, and that's how these things work down here. So apologies now, man. Kirkcaldy. There's definitely an L. There's definitely an L in there. I didn't realise you didn't say it. Is it like the second T in Toronto, where you don't say Toronto, it's Toronto, and that kind of thing? But that's on me. My Scots is terrible. I'm part English, part Welsh, and part Irish, so I'm not. I have no Scots anything. The only sort of Scots in me is when I finally get my hands on a proper can of Iron Brew. So I apologise on that one. Either way, time is kind of ticking on. And like I say, we won't hang around forever and ever tonight. Won't certainly go, I don't think, all the way to half past, as the third period is about to get underway in Davos. We will just reposition the phone so I can see. Got some young fans certainly enjoying themselves at the moment as the referee is having a very earnest discussion with one of the one of the coaching staff. One of the things, if you like your hot mics, then you definitely need to make an effort to kind of watch this, because they will generally the refs and the linesmen are all mic'd up, and all of the swearing is incredibly profuse and very funny. It's especially funny watching as I did this afternoon. Because I've just obviously stuck the YouTube feed on as we're chatting here, but I watched the Swiss feed this afternoon, to watch Freiburg Göttingen versus Sparta Prague, and it's just funny listening to the reactions of the Swiss German commentators who aren't quite sure exactly what is being said, but they've definitely learned enough of the swear words to know that they're not speaking polite English to each other, which is really, really funny to listen to. Either way, though, hope everyone's had a really, really good Christmas, good festive period. I now have a functioning roof, which is really really nice. Didn't get tons of hockey bits and pieces, but I've kind of Christmas here has kind of been split into three bits. We saw my wife's family before Christmas. We were at home, just the three of us, on Christmas Day, and then my mum's birthday is actually on the 2nd of January, so we're all. That side of my family and my side of the family with my mum and my sister, we're all kind of smashing ourselves together on mum's birthday on the 2nd. So we'll kind of get our birthday presents, mum gets Christmas and birthday presents all smashed into one. So if there's any hockey bits outstanding, I might still get them, is the short version there. So we don't really know, but I'll certainly be kind of looking around for a few extra bits and pieces. Of course, the hockey shelf up here, where we, like I said, we'll return to usual streaming bits and pieces, full standing up, fully in front of the hockey shelf bits and pieces. We did get some Series 1 Guildford Flames trading cards to kind of commemorate my first season of commentating for the Flames. Best ones that we got, I definitely like this hometown series that they've got. Got the Matt Alvaro Toronto card. I really like that. It's a really really fun one. It's just a really cool design. I did get an autograph card, and of course, in true Anthony fashion, I did get an autograph of Tyler Prezuzzo, who has been injured for pretty much the entire season in his first season as a pro, which is a real shame for Tyler, because I know there was a lot of high hopes for him and what he was able to do. Former Alberta Golden Bear, and for those of you who know your Guildford Flames history, that is where Stan Marple is based, and certainly a big one here. But certainly one for you older folks who remember some of the classic names of British hockey. We did get the old classic. We did get Terry Kurtenbach. So certainly I think some of you older Flames fans and older fans of British hockey will appreciate that one. I did have to chuckle as well, of course, having interviewed him ahead of the season. Did get the Andy Hemmings card. Hoping the Blindside folk will, because I know Jono got one. I know Jono Bullard got one in Nottingham. If I can get a trading card with my own face on it, I will die happy. Because what I want to do, it sounds really, really. Also realised I got the canvas Josh Waller card, which is really nice as well. What I want to do, I just want to see whether it's around here. It's actually just behind me here. So for those of you who don't know, I don't use my middle name a lot because I'm not a huge fan of it, but I do have a middle name. So my middle name is Charles. Make your own joke. And for quite a while, we have had this that has been passed along to me. So this is, so I am AC Russell. This is AC Russell. No relation. But played cricket for England and for Essex in England. And we had it in the house purely because my dad liked, as a big cricket fan, liked having, liked a lot of the old sort of cigarette cricket cards that you can kind of get. And we've had that in the house. And like I say, when my mum moved house, it was passed along to me. And what I've said to myself was because we had that hanging on the wall of the house for so long, what I kind of want to do is if we get to the point where Blindside make a trading card with my face on it, I'm going to work my backside off, because what I want to do is I want to get one for me, one for my dad, and one for my mum, because then what I want to do, particularly as well with my dad's Parkinson's dementia, and his, like I spoke to him yesterday, and he was just knackered and he sort of struggles. But what I want to do is I want to frame the card with me and give it to my dad and then give it to my mum, because they've had, between the two of them, even though they divorced when I was quite a young child, that has hung on a wall somewhere for one of the two of them pretty much most of my life until they gave it to me just after, just around the time Nathan was born. So I was never a good enough sport, and I'm never a good enough sportsman. Rugby was my sport, and I was always really I put in a lot of effort, but I wasn't very good. And so the ability to kind of do anything like that has always kind of passed me by. So if I can get to the point where this is a thing that can happen, I really want to do it, because I want to give it to. I want to be able to give that to my dad, and I want to give that to my mum so they can hang that on the wall. That sounds, and me being me, I've spoken a lot of things into existence over my time doing banners on the wall. An entire commentary career, in fact. But yeah, that is one of those things in my head that would be really cool, and I really want to kind of make that happen. If it's possible to make it happen. I know the folk at Blindside do follow, so if we can find a way to make it work, I would really appreciate that, because I think it'd be a really cool thing to give to my, if nothing else, to do for my dad, who the nature of Parkinson's dementia means that he doesn't forget people, but he forgets time and forgets place. And to give him something that he could kind of have and look at, he's proud of me irrespective, but I think it would just be really cool to be able to give him something like that. So I want to find a way to make that happen, and we will hopefully we'll be able to do that. So let's see if that can be the goal for 2026. I think. Power play for the Canadians. Jack Musa has gotten himself a sit down to start the third period. Just waiting for that actually to update. He says clicking bits and pieces. 9. Tripping at the penalty on Jack Musa. So the US Collegiates 3-1 down and now on the penalty kill. And it's done. Belfast narrowly win 9-0. We have actually had a message back from Patrick Smith from A View from the Bridge, and it's just 2 lines. Fife have been awful. We have been excellent. It's just sometimes it's the obvious thing that you need to say. I think what we'll do, I think we will start to wind things down, and we'll say last call on questions, comments, thoughts, and feelings. So stick stuff in the chat. You've got a couple of minutes. We'll kind of go in the next sort of 5 or so. And just kind of work on from there. Just seeing as well whether we had any other news on anything else. Nothing that I can see in the immediacy. But yes, I've got a shut up for Jackson whistle for the Giants tonight, in and amongst the 9 goal scorers. Just to do that as well. Nothing else that I can see in the immediacy, but there is the news out of Guildford as well. Tomorrow versus Manchester, Tuesday versus Cardiff, both sellouts. So if you were looking to come to the Spectrum over the next few days, you can't do that. You've got to buy your streams on Guildford Flames TV and listen to me take you through the next few games. That will be how that has to happen on that front. Just seeing if there's any other news as well out of the ECHL. Nothing that else immediately leaping out news-wise I can see. Of course, a lot of talk on the timeline about the ECHL. I can see, but yeah, certainly from my perspective, ECHL. I'm a union man. I believe in the power and the ability of workers to withhold their labour for better working conditions, and if things are anywhere close to what has been said. But there we are. All 13 games scheduled in the ECHL tonight have officially been postponed due to the players' strike. Really feels like it's become a no-win situation for all parties. Let us not forget there is a lot of people that will be directly impacted beyond the players and the owners, and of course, like casual staff at the at the arenas and bits and pieces like that. Backroom staff doing bits and pieces, as it were. And I think there's certainly a feeling like, for me, There's a lot of sort of very sort of anti-union language sort of wrapped up in this, and ultimately this is about people trying to protect their livelihoods. And there is no hockey without hockey players, and it feels like yes, there will be movement on both sides of this equation, but both sides have to move as part of the equation. I'll just very quickly, as you guys are chucking in your last bits and pieces, try and find the bits from Western Michaud, who just find that, because the PHPA put out a message to the ECHL fans and the players. And this is about 3 days ago, where Western Michaud, and if you're not familiar with him, he used to play for the Nottingham Panthers. Playing in the ECHL, I worked side jobs just to make ends meet. Housing situations weren't ideal. Got pressured to play through health concerns because speaking up felt like it could cost me my career advancement and credibility. The ECHL need to do better for current and future players. The pressure to perform and advance is intense, and players shouldn't have to choose between their well-being and their careers. Proud of everyone working to improve conditions at this level. And I think that's kind of where it stands. Like, we're really, really fortunate, and I think certainly as well, because Weston did as well. I'll just try and find the thing that because people had asked him about what his time was like. Somebody asked him, how does ECHL compare to your time in Europe in terms of salary and benefits? No specifics needed, just in general. And Weston had responded with way higher pay and better housing. The Panthers management genuinely cared about their players, and the fans were amazing. I love Nottingham most because of the extracurricular activities we got to do, like dinner events with our sponsors and driving around in our Fiats on the opposite side of the wheel/road. My favourite part was having a perennial or two with the lads and chatting with random British people who thought my accent was superb. It's no surprise they're on top of the league table. So obviously a little bit of a nod to his to Panthers fans and bits and pieces there, but yeah, certainly as well, like the idea that, being a professional hockey player, there are sacrifices you have to make to be a professional at any level, but as well, those sacrifices shouldn't result in you being destitute, and I think I'm very much of that opinion. The other thing we haven't talked about, of course, is because it starts tonight, because I know it's probably the bigger tournament in a lot of fans' minds. I am much more Spengler focused. It should be said, but the World Junior Championships, of course, are underway over in Canada at the moment. Sorry, not Canada. They're over in Minnesota in the US. A couple of games have already. One game ongoing. Sorry, Sweden have already beaten Slovakia 3-2 this afternoon. Denmark and Finland is currently ongoing. The Finns leading by 3-1. 11 o'clock face off tonight, our time, for Germany and the USA, and then 1:30 a.m. tomorrow morning, which is 7:30 p.m. local time in Minnesota, Canada versus Czechia. Not a tournament, unfortunately, that GB have to worry about at the moment. Either way, as we have kind of sort of reached the natural end, he's just quickly putting away a book box that I was using for sort of a makeshift table. I think what we will do, we'll just have a quick check as well, just back on the score in Game 2 of the Spengler Cup. As again, the Canadians having another very earnest word with the officials, not liking what they've got. So the big headline, like I say, the big headlines out of tonight, of course, like we say, Belfast have absolutely hammered the Five Flyers 9-0 in Milan Lucic and David Booth's debuts for the club. Otherwise, Sheffield have beaten Nottingham to make things interesting at the top of the table. Cardiff have come from a 4-2 deficit, having conceded 4 goals on the same major power play to beat the Coventry Blaze. Glasgow have beaten Dundee. Manchester have come from 2-0 down to beat Guildford by 3-2. And in the National League, the one game, Leeds have battered Hull in Hull because poor Matty Davis, he doesn't get anything he wants. Either way, like I said, we will, with about sort of 12 minutes left, I will leave you guys to go watch the rest of the hockey and enjoy the rest of your Boxing Day and into the weekend. We will call it there. Banners on the wall. TheWordPress.com, your number one source for all things British hockey related. Like I said, In the Box Thinking, my series where I will write up and give you some insights from inside the commentary box at at the Guildford Spectrum as I commentate on the Flames this coming season. You get the insight of what it means, what it's like to be a hockey commentator, all the work that goes with that, as well as a bit of in-depth analysis of that game. That will come every game I commentate on. The most recent one from Guildford versus Coventry from last weekend is up on the website. As well, make sure you check out Hockey Stories, our long-form, in-depth pieces of content. Some are audio visual, some are written. Of course, that last interview that we did, we've come a long way together. My chat with Luca Tasadri and Tyler Delabatouche is live on the website now. Just pausing, just because the Americans have just got a breakaway and scored to make it 3-2 with 12:10 to play. Great breakaway goal there, and that is where the speed is an advantage of those youngsters. Who scored that one for you? Jack Musa, who was in the box not too long ago, has got his first goal of the tournament to make it 3-2 to Canada. But yeah, as I was saying, like I say, we are 24. So Christmas Eve will have been, was it 14 3/4 years since the start of Banners on the Wall. 24th of March 2026 will be 15 years of me doing whatever this nonsense is. So as we edge towards the new year, certainly hasn't been lost on me just the sheer amount of time and effort I've put into it, but it's all crazy, but enjoyable to do, and I love doing it. So thank you very much for sticking around with it. You can check out everything that I do over on bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. On YouTube, head down into the description. You've got the links to all of our social media. We're on X, we're on Facebook, we're on Blue Sky. If you want to check out bits and pieces there, there's also the virtual busking hat over at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. Never going behind the paywall, but it does cost to do bits and pieces, and there's some changes I want to make in the new year. If you like what you see and you want to keep the lights on and the wheels turning, please do consider chucking some money in at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. If you can't afford to, or that's not what you want to do, that's cool as well. Share stuff out. Fighting the Algorithm Hamster, being a sort of a lone creator of bits and pieces that talks pretty much exclusively about British hockey, can be quite difficult at times. So yeah, just share stuff. That'd be awesome if you could do that into the bargain. But yes, like I said, all of that is there. And then yes, because and a big thanks to Dave, of course, because I clearly can't read my calendar. Next Wednesday, New Year's Eve, 8 p.m. Before you all head out to your parties for bits and pieces, we will finish off 2025, the calendar year, by chatting about hockey and all the awesome things that are going on, because that's what we usually do. It's Wednesday night, it's 8 p.m, it's every game from across Britain on the What's Current stream. The only show that does it live into the bargain. Big thanks to everybody for joining us for, like I say, a bit of a sort of a weird watch along. Hope you've enjoyed watching the Spengler Cup with me tonight. Pretty like I said, that's a lovely goal, all things considered. Poor James Ryan has been done like a kipper straight through his 5-hole. But either way, lots of fun. Really enjoyed it. Enjoy Spengler, where you can find it, like I say, for because it's not been picked up by any of the networks. It's free on YouTube to watch all week. It's my favourite tournament of the year by quite some distance. So enjoy that. Like I say, just try and stay safe. I say it every week. Be happy, and if you can't be happy, then please be safe. I say it at the end of every stream. I appreciate this time of year can be really, really hard for people. Christmas, with everything that people kind of can make it really, really hard to enjoy when if there are events that have happened, and it can be quite an emotionally charged time. So I really, really mean it. As we kind of get towards the end of stuff, just look after yourself. I think that's really all I can kind of say. And I was probably guilty over the last couple of weeks where I was so anxious about stuff to do with my house. So I probably wasn't doing that in the way I should have done. And I kind of need to take my own advice. I'm in a much better place now. And I feel much better about everything. So it's really, really good. And big thank you to everybody who sent sort of kind words about the situation we have with the roof and stuff. It's really appreciated. So we'll say it. And if you know it, sing along. Be happy. And if you can't be happy, then wherever you are, please do everything you can to please be safe. As my friend Scotty Watts would say, take care of yourself and somebody else. For bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, this is Anthony Russell saying stay safe. And so long till next time. Enjoy your hockey wherever you find it over the last couple of bits. We will finish off 2025 together this coming Wednesday night on New Year's Eve for the last one of 2025, the last What's Current stream of the current year. Enjoy your hockey where you